Hello everyone, Joseph Dunphy here, and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the dairy edge. The pasture-based data for the week: average farm cover has bumped up to 744 kilos of dry matter per hectare, and growth has steadily improved through up to 55 kilos of dry matter per hectare. Cover per livestock unit is sitting at 210 at the minute, and demand is sitting at 52. The diet going in on pasture-based at the minute is 14.5 kilos of grass and 4 kilos of meal. Dry matter percentages recorded over the last 7 days were 13% in Moore Park. This was early in the morning after a heavy dew overnight. 18% in Grange, 17% in Johnstown Castle, and 17% in Athenry. Your grass growth, rainfall, and soil temperature predictions for the coming 7 days. With the super weather we're having at the minute and the forecasted good conditions for the next 7 days, grass growth predictions are increasing significantly, with between 65 and 75 kilos of dry matter per hectare predicted for the coming week. Rainfall amounts are expected to be low, between less than 5 millimetres, and soil temperatures are expected to bump up another degree to between 12 and 13 degrees across the country. And the key messages in this week's podcast are surpluses are occurring on farms due to the high growth rates. As we said already, growth rates have increased to 55 kilos of dry matter per hectare out there. However, there's huge variation, with some farms recording growth rates of over 80 kilos plus. Cover per livestock unit should be targeted to be between 170 and 220 kilos over the coming weeks. Predicted growth rates, as we said already, are expected to be between 60 and 80 kilos of dry matter per hectare per day over the coming week. So this is going to be a critical week in terms of keeping a lid on your pre-grazing yield. When we look at this week's pasture-based data, almost 10% of dairy farmers that are recorded have an average farm cover of over 900 kilos of dry matter per hectare. This means that among most of these farms, that pre-grazing yield is probably sitting at somewhere between 17 and 1800 kilos. So paddocks must be removed on these farms this week for surplus bales. Oftentimes what's happened over the last few years is these paddocks now in good growthy weeks have been left and put into long-term silage and taken in a number of weeks with the first cut. However, we must urge caution. If we remember back to the last few years, the way weather has gone, it's important that we get these paddocks removed as high-quality feed, and that these paddocks are put back into the grazing rotation again by the 1st of June. Grass allocations now should be 24 to 36 hours for all farms, so animals can realise full intakes. Some farms that started the second rotation in early April are now approaching third rotation this week. Pre-grazing yield, as we said already, must be kept at 1400 kilos. So if the third rotation is slightly better quality than what's remaining on the second rotation, the second rotation stuff has gone heavy, take out that second rotation now with surplus bales and move on to your third rotation at covers of 14 to 1500. It's also important to review your nitrogen, your phosphorus, your potassium and your sulphur that's spread to date up to the 1st of May. The target for farms, dry farms, with 212 kilos of N per hectare of an allowance is to have 100 kilos of N per hectare chemical and organic out by the 1st of May, which is 80 units of nitrogen per acre. For heavy soils, that's about 20 kilos back, 80 kilos of N per hectare, or 60 units per acre. With farms with slightly higher allowance of 237 kilos of N per hectare, the target is to have 110, so an extra 10 kilos of nitrogen per hectare out, so roughly 85 units per acre spread. If you've no sulphur gone out so far, apply sulphur on grazing ground at 5 kilos per hectare, or 2 to 3 units per rotation, up to a total of 20 kilos or 15 units by the 1st of July. So again, a protected urea plus sulphur product at 38 plus 7 at a half a bag to the acre at the minute should suffice. As we said already, the super weather is going to allow surpluses to be taken out on farm, but also an ideal opportunity to take a paddock for reseed. And have a look through your pasture-based data and select a poor performing paddock or a paddock with a heavy weed burden to reseed now. Reseeded pastures are more responsive to nitrogen application, enable the incorporation of clover, enable more grass to be grown and higher quality grass to be eaten, along with higher animal performance. So make sure you get a paddock reseeded this spring. Our featured farmer this week is Danny Bermingham from Dunphy in West Clare. And the first thing Danny noted to me is this has been our best spring ever. Danny is milking 107 cows. They're currently on 5 kilos of meal and about 15.5 kilos of grass. Cows are producing strongly at 29 litres at 4.26 fat and 3.6 protein. and he noted that milk production is up 9% on 2024 year to date. Grass growth has exploded on Danny's farm over the last week, with an average farm cover up to 917, growth of 93, demand of 47, and cover per livestock unit at 291. He's about 60% through his second rotation at the minute. He has skipped numerous paddocks to keep the pre-grazing yield at 1500. The strip wire has been removed and heifers will return to the milking platform this week. Surplus grass, which will probably result in about 3 to 4 paddocks, is going to be cut now before the end of the week. And he has 65 units of N per acre spread to date on his farm, which is a heavy soils farm. Reseeding will be completed this week. He is stitching in 3 acres of a mix of Abergain, Aberchoice and White Clover on his grazing platform. If you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc Public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. We'd also like to thank the sponsors of the Grass10 campaign: AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture, FBD and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'll talk to you all next week.